and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yad Kripata Maham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Srivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I'm not just gonna read from the book, but I tried to choose verses, but somehow I have to read them. So I wanted to start by comparing Vedic society and modern society. This is always interesting to do because they are so different and they are opposite to one another in many ways. So in Vedic society, the education was transmitted via Guru Parampara system. So you had to be initiated by a spiritual master, and then you are considered, like explained here in the purport, a bandhu. So only Vaishyas and Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, they were qualified for these spiritual initiations, and laborers, they are called here, means Shudras, and women, they were not considered qualified. So they were excluded from studying the Vedas. And usually how this education was organized, as I understand, was that the spiritual master had an ashram, and then he was either a sannyasi or a grihasta, and his ashram would be usually in the forest or in some village, but more like to the side of the village, near the forest. And then his students would live with him as his servants, usually menial servants. And they would, by serving him and living with him, they would listen from him the explanations of the Vedas. And this is also, Krishna is also in his pastimes living in the ashram of his Guru Sandipani Muni, and he traveled all the way from Vrindavan, Mathura to Avanti to spend 3 months there and to learn the 64 arts. So this was for the reason to show that this is something that we all need to do, go through education. And then later, so these students, they were all brahmacharis during the time of their study. And then later they would decide if they want to get married, become grihastas, or if they want to remain brahmachari and then later become sannyasis and traveling sadhus. And then, as I understand, most of these spiritual masters, they were traveling and alone, going through the forests and taking many austerities. So it was very a rare opportunity to have such a spirit, to meet a spiritual master, and also it would be a rare opportunity for these qualified people to get Vedic education. So, and then in today's world, education is obligatory for everyone. We all, I mean, I grew up in Europe, so we are all at the age of 6 admitted to school, where we learn all sorts of subjects. And then the purpose of this education is not spiritual realization. It's how to qualify yourself to become a good member of society, and how to be efficient part of the economic production. I think I saw on your Prabhu's bag, it says, the more you learn, the more you earn. So I thought, okay, this is a good logo to mention how the purpose of the modern education is to earn money. And then the values are not so much how we should be qualified in terms of spiritual achievements, but quality. So somebody is considered intelligent if he is able to compete very successfully and then like climb on top of the social ladder by pushing everybody down, and then being some kind of super successful boss who is keeping everybody working for him as a wage earner. So because most of the people today are earning their salaries, and this is something in like opposite to Vedic societies. This is considered Shudras. How to say? Only Shudras were earning salary, and then Vaishyas, they had their own business, and Kshatriyas, they were managing kingdoms, so their source of income were taxes, because they were protecting everybody, so they had the right to earn to collect taxes from people. And then Brahmanas, they were teaching, and they were expecting their students to give them donations. So they were not keeping salaries. They were doing so to say voluntary work, and then because their students would appreciate the knowledge that they're learning, then they would reward their teachers with cars or land or clothes. So according to this distinction, all the people who are earning wages, they would be considered Shudras. Just in Chaitanya's time, position ministers in the what is of this ruler in working very the which were strictly following these traditions. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya presented themselves very humbly, very lowly, saying, "Oh, please teach us." Although we are outcast brahmanas. So this is it's a path for us to learn from all the lives of our predecessors, for us to learn from about our position. So then somebody who comes consciousness from the educational system in that society, this might come as a shock for sure, to learn, to find out that somehow in our in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam purports, women are called less intelligent, because this is in modern education, certainly it's not recognized, and actually it is considered that equality between equal opportunities are sign of social then we are with this contradiction, and then the question is how we understand this. But then obviously we learn about the history and about what is and how it changed, because obviously we're all here today in Mayapur. Some of you are from India, but some of us are not from India. So question is, how did it happen that from this exclusive, how did this exclusive knowledge only for most qualified people, which was practically kept secret from people from lower classes of society, how did it happen that it spread the world, that we have classes, have Bhagavatam, internet, Zoom, YouTube, library, books you can buy today, as you know, on the streets. So how did it happen that did we become qualified? So but what happened was that teachers recognized that we need mercy of the Lord, because the system, the Russian system collapsed, and then we could not have the Dharma more. They were not for themselves, and then held against the Brahmins. And then, as in Europe, our history, the Kshatriya had all the power, and then the Vaishyas get rid, and then they were saying, so why do we need to follow these kings? We don't need them, they're just tyrants. So then the Vaishya community rebelled, and then they took power. And it also adopted communism. So their system is very much lot better for the class people, and saying, so we don't need is that they probably in now mostly in the world of capitalistic society. So we did not be qualified to study, but the whole uh, collapsed in the world. Then I recently heard this story left Kent. And I like this very much because the explanation here how mercy from stages is transmitted in the world. So this is explaining this. This is very by Dham when he interacted with he met nine yogin. He immediately took the opportunity to ask them questions about spirit life. So he asked them 9 questions, and because there were 9 of them, stage. So Chama's was what happens to those people who are serving or who have fear or unable to hold their minds. So his answer is that each of the orders headed by one of the modes eyes and feet of the same Lord is for that the 4 words will generate. Any member of the 4 vibes and 4 actions leadership personality, the source of the wrong and the down position to avoid the one. So this is also this I heard same their advanced life better advancing they achieve a level and they start advancing. He explains for even though they are just so much and they became some person who have the opportunity to take part in discussions about spring and deserve the personalities like instruction to be here and women and classes. So I guess foreign classes means here Dvija those who are born in families they are they the qualifications of this very giving mercy this Chaitanya in India, but he was always considering that the whole world needs this knowledge, and he sent that book to the West in the year when Srila Prabhupada was born, 1896. Lord Chaitanya and his precepts and life and teachings, and even though in that time it was almost unimaginable that there would be a movement from India that would spread around the whole world, because India was subjugated as English colony. And then also the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was also giving instructions to his disciples: go to West, go out of India, preach. The whole world needs this message. These Vedas, they are universal knowledge, and they are for the benefit of the whole humanity. And then certainly Srila Prabhupada, not only he went to USA and started movement there, but then he was traveling around the planet. And this is very, for us, we can only admire that he achieved in America, he achieved big success. And he had many disciples, and then he would leave them to go to some other countries where people never heard about the Vedas, and then he would start a movement there. And I remember one pastime, I think it's explained in this, it was written about in this book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, how there was one opportunity when Srila Prabhupada could choose whether he would go to some big program in USA, or he would cancel this program because devotees were arranging for him to visit Africa. I think it was Namibia, and then he decided to go to Africa, actually, although this program in USA would have been a big success, but he decided, actually those people, they need mercy more. So that was his motivation in planning his trips, his traveling. And we can only admire that today, because to travel is not easy, and to start a movement again and again in some new environment, it's really amazing how he did that. And today, just like our movement is not maybe big in terms of membership, but we see that we have centers in most, I think, in all countries. The preachers that they were able to go and travel most countries. And I would like to say, from the viewpoint of the person who just joins the temple, that because I joined, when I joined, I was already 30, even more. So for me, it meant a lot that visiting preachers were visiting my town, because my town it's a small town in a small country, and it's really for me today unbelievable that we have a temple there, because I see many countries that they don't have an ISKCON temple in every small town, but somehow we had. And every month there would be a traveling preacher who would visit our temple and have either a seminar or some sangha or a public program, and then we would all come and listen. And I remember how I was so impressed. Well, first of all, I was impressed by meeting people from USA or from other countries in Europe, because when you live a normal life, you don't actually get so much opportunity to meet people who are traveling. There's just people from your own country who speak your own language, people you grew up with, that is your environment. And then when you meet somebody who is traveling, who is coming from far away, and then his purpose is to travel, and he's motivated by promoting spiritual science, that leaves a big impression for those new people who just joined. Although sometimes it seems, oh, there's not a lot of people, there's just 5 or 10, so what is the purpose of traveling just to speak in front of 5 new people? But for those 5 people, if you are one of them, it actually means a lot. It leaves a big impression. So I just wanted to share that as from my own experience, because I still remember how I mean it's still recent in my mind. What is life like when you are not a Hare Krishna devotee? And it's very much different. So, this I wanted to say about this Chamasa Muni. And then there is still time. I went through some verses that explain intelligence. This was interesting for me to see what do the Shastras say about intelligence. And then, I found this this verse also interesting about, it's a verse also from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.6. Anarto pashayam sakshat bhakti yoga madokshaje lokasya janato vidvamsh chakre sattvata samhitam. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. So this is where it's explained that, there are many verses explaining how we meet, by studying Vedas, we meet Krishna, and we are establishing a relationship with him. And then we are learning the activities which help us to develop that relationship. And that the ultimate goal of life is love of Godhead. So this is what Vedas are teaching. And then we get this knowledge by studying Bhagavatam, but we get this knowledge even more from chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the essence of all Vedas, essence of all hymns. And this is interesting, there is interesting pastime about Lord Chaitanya, how he met, actually the story is that he was teaching Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi, giving him instructions. And Varanasi was then the center of the Mayavadi philosophers. And they were blaspheming him, they were criticizing him, because he was chanting and dancing in public and exhibiting his ecstatic symptoms. But somehow Lord Chaitanya, he didn't pay attention. He was actually avoiding them. And he spent these 2 months, as I understand, in the house of Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra Prabhus, his followers. And then he concentrated on teaching Sanatana Goswami. But these 2, his servants, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar, they were disturbed by all this criticism. So after some time they told him, we cannot tolerate this criticism. Please, you have to do something about it. We feel like we should commit suicide because we are hearing such blasphemous comments about you. And then Lord Chaitanya, he agreed to do something about these Mayavadi sannyasis in Varanasi. And then he accepted. There was one Brahmana who invited him for prasad, and he also invited all the Mayavadi sannyasis. And then Lord Chaitanya, he accepted, although all this time he was avoiding to take prasad with them, but this time, on this occasion, he accepted, and then he offered obeisances, and actually after washing his feet, he sat next to this place where he washed his feet, which was not a clean place, because he was exhibiting humble behavior. And then he started to emanate effulgence, which is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. His effulgence was brighter than 1,000 suns. So when all the other sannyasis saw his shining effulgence, they immediately recognized that he's the Supreme Person, and then they were convinced that he's the worshipable Lord. Because of his beauty, it's explained that he was able to convince them because of his beauty and this shining effulgence. And then the leader of those Mayavadi sannyasis, who was Prakashananda Saraswati, then he approached Lord Chaitanya, and then he apologized, and he said, my dear Lord, we recognize you are non different from Narayan. Please come, don't sit in this place which is not clean. Please come and sit with us in a more in a more nicer place. And then he also asked him, so we see that you are also initiated as in this Shankara Sampradaya, and you are a disciple of Keshava Bharati, and but you are not meditating like we do, and you are not discussing Vedanta philosophy like we do, and instead you dance, you chant, you spend all the time with different sentimentalist people and fanatics, but you should be with us discussing Vedanta because you are also a sannyasi. So how can we understand your behavior? And Lord Chaitanya said, oh, because my Guru Maharaj Keshava Bharati, he told me, you're a fool, you cannot study Vedanta, so you just chant Hare Krishna. And this is the best for this age of Kali. And then he said the famous verse that Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva kevalam kalau nasti, kati anyata. That in this age of Kali there's no other way than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. Because the name is the essence of all the Vedas. So that's what I do. I got this instruction. So I'm following the instruction of my Guru. And for sure the Mayavadis, they were all surprised. They couldn't understand that he's the Lord, and yet he's just chanting and dancing. And then they asked him to explain, but what is the purport of Vedanta? What is your explanation? And then the Lord Chaitanya, he explained that actually Shankaracharya, he was imagining, his explanation is imaginary, and the purport of Vedanta is by Shankaracharya explained indirectly, and the direct explanation of Vedanta is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra by the author himself, Srila Vyasadeva. So we see how the logic was by Srila Vyasadeva that first he divided the Vedas for different groups of people, because not everybody is on the same level, so they all need different approaches to help them understand Vedic knowledge. So he divided the Vedas, he wrote Puranas, and then there are Sattvika Puranas, Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas. Then he wrote all the 108 Upanishads, the 4 Vedas, and then he also wrote Mahabharata, as is mentioned in this verse, for laborers and Vijabandhus and women. And then he was unsatisfied, as we will learn in this in the later verses. So why was he dissatisfied? This is very interesting and very mysterious. And then Narada Muni comes to tell him. He understood that he did not glorify the Lord directly, because he was thinking how to divide Vedas for different kinds of people. So he was adjusting the Veda for different people, for people who are differently qualified. But then he had a hunch that, I did not glorify directly. I was just trying to adjust. And by adjusting, I somehow missed this, that devotional service to the Lord is what is the highest purport of the Vedas. So then, when Narada Muni came, he confirmed, and he gave him instruction that, yes, so now you write Srimad Bhagavatam. And he also explained to him that the Vedic knowledge is coming through Guru Parampara and through mantras. And then just as Lord Krishna, he explained he taught Lord Brahma, and he gave him the explanation in Chatushloki, the 4 verses, which are the core or the essence of the Bhagavatam. So these Chatushloki, they come from their expansion of Om mantra, and then the Bhagavatam is expansion of the Chatushloki mantras. So in that way, he explained to him this essence of establishing a relationship with the Lord and coming to the level of devotional service. And this is what Bhagavatam is. That is why it is complete. And as the verse says, what is the need of any other literature? So this is not because obviously there is need for other literature, but as it is given to us, it is a complete Shastra in a sense that it perfectly enables us to establish and develop this relationship with the Supreme, because this is what spiritual science is. It's not, obviously, it's not just learning verses, and it's not about doing rituals, but all these other things are helping us to establish this relationship. And then when the relationship is developing, then we realize our rasa, and then Krishna becomes the center of our rasa. As he says, I'm the center of all relationships. So this is something that I found is very important in our understanding why we study Bhagavatam, and also why we chant, why we spend so much time chanting. Because Srila Prabhupada, he explains in the purports of Chaitanya Charitamrita, if we just neglect, if we just chant, and then we neglect philosophy, then tendency is to become like sahajas, that we just take everything so cheaply. And if we just study and we don't chant, then tendency is to become like Mayavadi sannyasis and see everything as impersonal, just see the Lord as being out of this world. We don't recognize that everything is manifestation from his energies. And so I want to maybe conclude with this verse. It's a verse from the 10th canto. Yeah. That is spoken, prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in Devaki's womb. So the verse is, Yanye ravindaksha vimukta maninas, tvayasta bhavad avishuta budaya, aruhya krichrena parampadam tata patantya donadrita yushmat agraya. That, so translated here, someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, all the non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated. Their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard to a lotus feet. So yeah, so this is what I wanted to say about intelligence, that definition of intelligence is given in the Vedas is so somebody who is intelligent is a person who is recognizing that a surrender to the Lord's lotus feet is the only goal we can ever think to achieve. Nothing else is there. And the Vedas and Bhagavatam, they say a lot about who is intelligent and who is not intelligent. But this is, I think, it's another subject, and it would be another direction for this class. So I will maybe stop here and ask for questions or comments. I was advised to ask more for comments. Yeah.
Thank you for the class. When you talk about the Gurukul systems and educational systems, I want to know which books do you use to understand these Gurukuls? Where are you getting this information from? Like, how do you know what the Gurukul system was in Treta Yuga? How do you know what it was in Dwapara Yuga? How do you know what the Gurukul system was in Satya Yuga? How are you sourcing this information?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So I'm not expert on Gurukulas. What I know about Gurukulas is from reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are many stories which mention how education is transmitted in the Bhagavatam. And I was fascinated many times to learn that when women were in trouble, that they went to ashram of a sage in a forest. So okay, this is in case when women went there. Like for example, when the brahmanas or who was it? Actually, demigods, when they wanted to kill Kayadu because she had the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was away and he was doing austerities. And then demigods recognized that, his wife has a son, so his son would be maybe even greater demon, so we better kill her. And then she was sent, the Narada Muni saved her, and he sent her to ashram to stay with, who was it? It was his own ashram, yeah, thank you. And also Sita, wife of Lord Dham, she was also sent away because people criticized. We know the story that people criticized Lord Dham that he accepted his wife after she was living in another man's house, and he was so pious and so moral, for us unimaginable, that he said, okay, so now you have to go because people are criticizing me, and I have to give example of being the perfect king, perfect ruler, who is not putting his family members above other citizens. So if they criticize me, that means that you have to go. And she went and she lived also in an ashram of Valmiki Muni. So we see in many stories how these ashrams of the sages in the forest, there were centers of education and obviously protection. So the sages, they had their disciples living with them. So this is my understanding. It's from Bhagavatam. I don't study Gurukulas. This is from Bhagavatam. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really honored to have such exalted audience. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.